right, news on the go for you now. The Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, is about to give a media briefing in Pretoria on the outcomes of the latest cabinet briefing or cabinet meeting. That briefing has just started. Let's listen in.
Ms. Elva Boise. Colleagues, you are joining me this morning for a statement of the cabinet meeting that was held yesterday on Wednesday, the 3rd of October, 2024. From the issues in the environment, on the economy, on South Africa being an investment destination of choice, Cabinet reflected on the positive investor sentiments emanating from President Cyril Ramaphosa and Deputy President Paul Mashatile's working visits to New York in the USA and London in the United Kingdom, respectively. The President's program on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly included opportunities to promote South Africa as an investment destination of choice, such as his address to the New York Stock Exchange, which is the largest stock exchange in the world by market capitalization. The Deputy President's investment drive to the United Kingdom and Ireland also included an address to the London Stock Exchange about the need to expand the investment footprint to South Africa. The London Stock Exchange was the most valuable stock exchange in Europe as of 2023. Both President Ramaphosa and Deputy President Mashatile and their delegations articulated the priorities of government of national unity, with the apex priority being achieving inclusive economic growth and job creation, and the concomitant initiatives underway to achieve the said priorities. They further set out work that is underway through the program of structural reforms to create favorable conditions for investment. The program of structural reforms is coordinated through Operation Vulindlela by the Presidency and National Treasury. On the Government and Business Partnership Phase 2 launch, Cabinet welcomed the launch of Phase 2 of the Government Business Partnership aimed at implementing priority interventions across selected focal areas to accelerate the country's path towards inclusive economic growth and job creation through increased investment and rapid implementation of reforms to improve national sentiment. Working in support of government interventions, more than 130 CEOs of major South African businesses mobilized resources, including expertise, to address the electricity load shedding crisis that is now a thing of the past, support the implementation of the logistics and freight roadmap, the visa reform, and the fight against crime and corruption during Phase 1. On the visa reforms gazetted, Cabinet welcomed the gazetting of South Africa's new visa regime as a key step towards attracting international skills and investment, growing tourism, and creating jobs. The Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, has gazetted the reforms which constitute another success under the Operation Vulindlela-led initiative. Enforcement of labor laws. Cabinet commended intensified joint inspection efforts led by the Department of Employment and Labor to ensure that employers comply with recruitment requirements. Since the beginning of the 7th administration, the Department of Employment and Labor has issued fines worth more than 10 million rands to errant employers within the hospitality industry who continue to employ undocumented immigrants. These inspections are similar to those being conducted in the trucking industry to ensure that employers uphold the provisions of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. The inspections also revealed instances of non-compliance to labor laws that include underpayment of wages, unlawful deductions, and inadequate health and safety measures at the workplace. On the temporary employer-employee relief scheme, Cabinet welcomes the increase in the budget for the temporary employee relief scheme known as TES from 400 million to 2.4 billion in the current financial year. The increase is part of the government's proactive response to help preserve jobs by assisting companies that find themselves in financial distress due to difficult economic conditions and thereby minimize retrenchments. On the fight against crime and corruption, on crime, Cabinet condemned the murders of 18 people in Lusikisiki and 6 community patrollers in Khumbu in the Eastern Cape in mass shooting incidents. Cabinet welcomed the swift deployment of a team of specialist law enforcement officers to investigate these shooting incidences, whose work is already bearing fruits, with one suspect directly linked to the murder of the 18 people in Lusikisiki having already appeared in court. Cabinet welcomed the success of the intelligence-led operations conducted in the Verulam and High Flats areas in KwaZulu-Natal. In the Verulam operation, police confronted a mastermind and one of the most wanted suspects in most of the cash-in-transit heist robberies in KZN. The suspect was killed in a shootout after he opened fire against the police. Similarly, 2 suspects in the murder of 7 people in the High Flats case were killed in a shootout with the police. Again, they opened fire against the police, and the police responded equally to the challenge. Cabinet is encouraged by the continued success of Operation Shanyela. In the past week, over 10,000 suspects were arrested for various offenses such as murder, rape, possession of illegal firearms, business robberies, and drug mules for possession of cocaine at our ports of entry. Cabinet further commended a joint operation in Limpopo that led to the discovery of a drug lab in Lebowakgomo, where drugs to the value of approximately 4 million rands were seized and 3 suspects arrested. On the fight against corruption, Cabinet welcomed the arrest of 6 engineering firm directors accused of BEE or Black Economic Empowerment fronting and tender fraud to the value of 400 million rands at both Eskom and SASO. On gender-based violence and femicide, Cabinet commended the landmark sentencing of convicted serial rapist Nkosinathi Phakathi for 42 life terms by the Gauteng High Court, which sends a strong warning to perpetrators of gender-based violence and femicide that our nation will not be held ransom to their acts. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to report all perpetrators of gender-based violence and femicide crimes or any form of violence against persons who are vulnerable, or a child, older person, or person with a disability to a local police station, or call the toll-free Crime Stop number 086 00 10 111. On governance, in fulfilling the commitment made during the presidency budget vote to work closely with provincial and local governments to address service delivery challenges, President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead a delegation of cabinet to engage with premiers and members of provincial executive committees. The first visit will be to Limpopo on Friday, 1st November 2024, and this will be followed by the visit to KwaZulu-Natal on Thursday, 7th November 2024. On social protection, on matters of the adverse weather condition, Cabinet has encouraged South Africans to remain alert and adhere to weather warnings from the South African Weather Service as the country continues to experience inclement weather conditions ranging from unusual snowfalls, flooding, rainstorms, damaging winds, and heat waves due to the effects of climate change. The weather alerts are communicated across all media platforms, including community radios. Cabinet will soon receive a revised integrated disaster management response strategy that will cover disaster mitigation and response, including funding for disaster recovery. The inaugural South African National Urban Forum on the Global Habitat and Urban Agenda, the Departments of Human Settlements, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, South African Cities Network, and the United Nations Human Settlements Program, or UN Habitat, and hosted the inaugural South African National Urban Forum on Global Habitat and Urban Agenda and the South African Urban Policy. The forum gathered key social partners to address the challenges and leverage opportunities of rapid urbanization in South Africa. The forum highlighted the strategic importance of managing rapid urbanization in the context of responding to other major trends such as climate change, smart mobility, and technology. On the repatriation of the remains of South Africa's freedom fighters, Cabinet welcomed the return of the remains of our freedom fighters who were buried while in exile in Zimbabwe and Zambia. The return of their remains to a free and democratic South Africa is a realization of the preamble of our Constitution, which enjoins us to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. This initiative is part of the Exile Repatriation Project, which aims to allow the country and families to honor the memories of those who fought for freedom and justice, and for government to honor and restore the legacy of those who sacrificed their lives for the country's freedom. South Africa remains indebted to the international solidarity movement from all countries that provided freedom fighters with shelter, support, and final places to rest in some cases. On sport, Cabinet calls on all South Africans united in our diversity to show their support to the Mamelodi Sundowns and, most importantly, Bafana goalkeeper Ronan Williams, who is nominated as one of the 10 best goalkeepers in the world at the Ballon d'Or Awards for the Yashin Trophy by casting their votes on lepel.fr/en/special selection ballon-d'or-2024/section and the Yashin Trophy. Williams is the first South African player to be nominated for the Yashin Trophy at the Ballon d'Or Awards. The 68th edition of the award ceremony will take place on October 28th, 2024. Until then, we vote for R. Williams in both English and French languages. Let's forget which team he plays for, but he plays for the national team. On international affairs, the United Nations General Assembly resolution on Israel and Palestine. Cabinet welcomed the United Nations General Assembly historic resolution that declared Israel's occupation of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza unlawful, and mandating the complete withdrawal of Israeli settlers and soldiers. This resolution is not only significant for South Africa's case at the ICJ, but that the developed countries such as Spain, Belgium, and Japan have joined most of the countries of the Global South in supporting the resolution. On the working visit to Lesotho, to the Kingdom of Lesotho, Cabinet noted President Ramaphosa's working visit to the Kingdom of Lesotho at the invitation of King Letsie III. During the visit, President Ramaphosa attended the 58th Lesotho Independence Day and the bicentennial celebration and delivered remarks during the celebrations to commemorate Basotho's nation's rich heritage and the contribution of King Moshoeshoe I into the history of Southern Africa. And we congratulate the people of Lesotho for their bicentennial celebrations. Ongoing conflict in Sudan. Cabinet noted the escalation of conflict in Sudan and call upon all the Sudanese to adhere to the guidelines of the African Union and the IGAD to end the conflict. South Africa stands ready to offer its expertise to assist parties, role players, and other relevant stakeholders to collectively work towards finding lasting peace in the Sudan. On the report on the completion of lifestyle audits by members of the Senior Management Service, Cabinet was briefed on the progress with the completion of e-disclosures by members of the SMS and commended progress that included full compliance by majority of national departments and provincial departments, and noted that investigations that are underway for non-compliant members. In terms of the compliance, you only have 4 national departments non-compliant and 9 provincial departments non-compliant. Cabinet urged the DPSA to consider piloting the extension of e-disclosure system to municipalities as we work towards a single public service. Report on the establishment of a central register for discipline across the 3 spheres of government. Cabinet received an update on progress with the establishment of a central register for discipline across the 3 spheres of government and supported a proposal to interfacing the central register for discipline with PESAL system and the local government payroll systems to have a line of sight on the recruitment of implicated, resigned or dismissed officials. Cabinet decisions on the bills. The first bill is the draft South African National Petroleum Company Bill. Cabinet approved the submission of the South African National Petroleum Company Bill 2024 to Parliament. The bill makes provisions for the establishment of a state-owned company, giving effect to the Cabinet decision of 10 June 2020 to merge Petro SA, South African Gas Development Company, iGas, and the Strategic Fuel Fund Association. Local refinery capacity in South Africa is largely held by international oil companies, which poses a risk to security of liquid fuels as the international oil companies are shutting down their refineries in the country. The proposed bill positions the company as the national champion that will hold oil and gas exploration rights on its own and also hold shares through the state carry method in privately held rights. The second bill is the Draft Petroleum Products Bill 2024. Cabinet approved the publication of the Draft Petroleum Products Bill for public comments. The purpose of the bill is to ensure security of petroleum products, orderly development of the petroleum products sector, including the introduction of modern, cleaner products and renewable components, which will improve the energy mix. The bill will contribute towards the government's priorities on economic transformation and job creation in the South African petroleum product sector governance and will address several concerns that were raised in relation to the administration of the Petroleum Products Act of 1977. The third bill is the Mine Health and Safety Amendment Bill. Cabinet approved the submission of the draft Mine Health and Safety Amendment Bill to Parliament. The draft bill seeks to amend the Mine Health and Safety Act 29 of 1996 by streamlining administrative processes, strengthening enforcement provisions, reinforcing offenses and penalties, and amending certain definitions. The draft bill will, amongst others, guarantee that health and safety standards are effectively implemented, enforced, and improved in mines, thereby reducing fatalities, injuries, and occupational diseases. I must further confirm that the amount of fatalities in our mines has drastically reduced since the advent of the democratic government in South Africa. And we commend the work of the Department of Mineral Resources and also the mining companies that operate in South Africa. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualification and relevant security clearances. The first appointment is for Mr. Nkululeko Lwazima Hlangu as Deputy Director General, Governance, Risk and Compliance in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The second is the appointment of members to the board for the Limpopo Olifants Catchment Agency, which is going to be chaired by Advocate Tato Goodness Muyeng, Deputy Chairperson Mr. Nanda Govind. Members of the board are Mr. Francois Joubert, Miss Patuchezo Muzanani, Dr. Baangwere Borogo Akwinekomi, Mr. Nkangweni Lawrence Rambau, Mr. Dihole Timothy Soroka, Advocate Renette Mary Rose, and Advocate Ellen Brookman. Upcoming events. This year marks the 19th anniversary of the October Transport Month under the theme Doing More Together, and the events will focus on showcasing public infrastructure and ongoing improvements in public service through collaboration with all stakeholders. Significant progress is being made in the freight environment since the establishment of the Transnet War Room, with an improved performance in its freight rail and ports operations. Government will also showcase significant road construction projects, including the N2, N3 upgrades in KwaZulu-Natal and the Moloto Road, which links Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. PRASA has also made significant progress with the reopening of priority lines, including the Germiston-Katlehong-Kwesini line, which is in its test phase now, and the Cape Town Central line, which is planned for completion by end of financial year. On the Social Development Month, October is also Social Development Month, and government aims to create awareness of the Department of Social Development portfolio of services. Over the month, there will be community visits to various areas around the country to link communities to social services, upliftment programs, and undertake community dialogues, mobilization, and advocacy work to improve the quality of life of affected communities. On the annual National Oral History Conference, South Africa is hosting the 2024 Annual Oral History Conference from the 7th to the 11th of October 2024 in Ulundi, KwaZulu-Natal. At this year's conference, special attention will be given to those aspects of the nation's memory that is not recorded, preserved, or conserved in the national and provincial archives. On the Mental Health Awareness Month, October is also Mental Health Awareness Month, with an aim of educating the public about mental health and encourage them to take care of their mental health. We encourage South Africans to seek help and support and to respect those who suffer from mental health illness. On the BRICS Summit, President Cyril Ramaphosa will attend the 2024 BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, from the 22nd to the 24th of October 2024. The 16th summit of the BRICS, under the theme Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security, will discuss issues about the trade, global political matters, and advancing cooperation between member countries. On Media Freedom Day, on Saturday, the 19th of October 2024, South Africa will observe Media Freedom Day to mark the events of 19th October 1977, or commonly known as the Black Wednesday, that banned 19 Black consciousness movement organizations and 2 newspapers. A democratic South Africa has made significant progress to advance media freedom and freedom of expression. The right to freedom of expression is entrenched and enshrined in South Africa's constitution. On the district development model, presidential imbizo, President Ramaphosa will lead a district development model, presidential imbizo to eThekwini in the eThekwini Metropolitan in KwaZulu-Natal on Friday, 8th November 2024. Cabinet calls on residents of eThekwini and surrounding areas to join the imbizo and engage their public representatives on solutions to challenges in their community and find ways to improve service delivery. National Certificate Examinations. Cabinet wishes the class of 2024 well with the start of their matric exams on 21st October 2024 and called on parents and guardians to support learners during this critical period in their academic journey. The national certificate remains an inviolable standard in our country for exiting high school to go to tertiary educations. It opens a number of exciting options and opportunities to our young people. On messages, we start with congratulations. Cabinet wishes to congratulate and wish well to the South African legal team at the International Court of Justice for being awarded the 4th Steve Biko Frantz Fanon Award for Psychological Liberation. The award is for their work to uphold the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in Gaza. The members of the team are John Dugat, SC, Adil Hassim, SC, Tembeka Kaitobi, SC, Belini Kalai, KC, Max Duplessis, SC, Von Law, KC, Sidiso Ramohale, Sarah Putfin-Jones, and Lerato Zikalala. Cabinet also wished to extend its congratulations and well wishes to Professors Salim Abdul Karim and Quresh Abdul for winning the prestigious Leska Award for Public Service in recognition of their groundbreaking, life-saving HIV research. The Springboks for our national rugby team on their resounding win against Argentina for being crowned the 2024 rugby champions. South Africa under 20 men's national soccer team, commonly known as Amajita, for being crowned Total Energies CAF under 20 African Cup of Nations champions and qualifying for the 2025 under 20 African Cup of Nations champions. African Cup of Nations competition, excuse me. to the Motorsport South Africa for securing a new World Rally Raid Championship, W2RC event, which will now also take place in South Africa in 2025. To Zwali's Jansen van Rensburg for being crowned Miss World South Africa, 2024. Zwali's is 18 years old and will represent the country at the 72nd Miss World pageant in February 2025. To the winners of the various categories of the inaugural SAIC South African in Australia Awards, the CEO Award went to Manana Johnson for her embodiment of diverse qualities in the areas of community building, Ubuntu, social impact, and youth engagement. Cabinet also wishes to extend its congratulations to the outstanding, Cabinet congratulates the outstanding educators who were honored at the National Teacher Awards held in Beshut on World Teachers' Day on 5th October 2024, which was addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Cabinet also commended Relebohile Mulamu, a brave grade 3 learner undergoing chemotherapy, and her teacher, Mrs. Nobile Mbata, for jointly receiving the Minister's Speciality My Teacher Award for their inspiring story. Despite her battle with cancer, Relebohile, with the support of her teacher, Ms. Mbata, managed to keep up with her schoolwork while in hospital. Ms. Mbata went above and beyond to ensure that Relebohile did not fall behind her classmate. Through this extraordinary effort, Relebohile not only kept pace but excelled, finishing in the top 10 of her class, and this is very transformative when she has done so from a hospital bed. There are a number of categories of the winners. I'm sure the Minister of Basic Education has issued a statement, but we want to also extend our congratulations to Ms. Nontombo Zuko Mkizwana, who won the Best National Teacher Award. On condolences, Cabinet expressed its condolences to the government and the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo following a boat tragedy on Lake Kivu, which claimed the lives of many people on Saturday, 5th October 2024. Cabinet expressed its condolences to the family and friends of renowned Pastor Ray Macaulay, founder of the Rema Bible Church and former co-chairperson of the National Interfaith Council of South Africa. To the family and friends of former Judge Willem Heath, who chaired the Heath Commission of Inquiry into Corruption and Maladministration in the Eastern Cape, and was also the head of the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU. To the gospel family and friends of gospel icon Soli Molokwane, popularly known by his stage name Soli Moholo, who gave us inspiration, healing, and entertainment through his music. To the family and friends of Spiwe General GTZ SABC, who was the last surviving member of the Kwaito group Chiskop, which played a foundational role in the development of Kwaito music in the country. On public announcement, Cabinet is calling on all in our country to use water sparingly, as South Africa remains a water-scarce country, and we are currently experiencing water shortages. In particular, we urge the residents of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, where level 1 and level 2 water restrictions have been applied, to adhere to prescribed restrictions. Water is life. Let's use it responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive statement. The statement will be shared, but I think we'll check also against delivery as the Minister was delivering, but also the clip will be available on all the GCIS platforms so that you can familiarize yourself with the issues that have been raised. As per tradition, we will then open the session for questions. We have an online platform that colleagues can post their questions to, but now we'll start with those that are in the house in attendance. If they have any questions, the drill is the same. You will introduce yourself and your media house and then pose the questions. Check. Yes, ma'am.
Amanda from News 24. Minister, there's been a number of reports about children dying in townships after consuming products from spaza shops. Is Cabinet concerned about this, and is there not much more that government can do to put a stop to this? It's not the first time that it's happening. And then on the provincial visits that's going to be led by the President, how different are these visits going to be? Because the government already has the DDM model where Cabinet and the President go to provinces to try and attend to these service delivery issues. How different is this visit going to be to that already existing DDM model that the government is already doing? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. TK, do you have any question online? Amanda, maybe you might want to switch the gadget to off. To read. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. B. So far, it's only one question. Good day to everyone. The question is coming from Weitumelo, who is representing the Sunday World newspaper. And the question is, how will the remote work visa specifically benefit black professionals, particularly unemployed black graduates, in terms of opportunities for employment and skills development? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think those are the questions, the only questions that we have. So I'm not sure if maybe Minister will want to use that opportunity one time. Then I see there's another question. Yes, my brother.
I know you don't expect questions from camera operators. The proxy, it's from the SABC International Desk, Umam Sophie. Please ask the Minister if Cabinet has finalized preparations for G20 Summit next year.
No, thank you very much. You are part of the brother family. Thank you very much. Minister, those are the questions that we have, and I don't see any indication of further questions. Then maybe on that note, they will request the Minister to give the responses, but also maybe, Minister, you might want also to close the briefing and adjourn it. Unless if we have questions today, Minister, very interesting questions from the camera people. You say. Yes, sir. You can just switch on the mic there.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. This is Chekwane from PNC. I want to ask with regard to the perpetual or continuing of gender-based violence, where you find, in most cases, men are killing a lot of women, and then it seems to be going on and nothing is happening. And also the other thing is with regard to the foreign nationals who are owning all the spaza shops around South Africa. What are you doing with it, and what is your take with regard to other calls for them to leave by other organizations such as Dudula and others? So what is your take on that, and what are you doing with it?
Thank you very much. Quite valuable questions. Minister, will request your indulgence. Colleagues, we also have my colleague C. Pombele for any other follow-up questions in terms of whether any arrangement he is here in the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I were the journalist, I'll be worried that the camera people have very interesting and very important questions. There are two questions that have been asked that needs a response that goes beyond government, that requires a societal response. And government has been calling on society to partner to deal with the questions. The first one is on the issue around gender-based violence and femicide. The police, if you recall in the statement, we refer to the serial rapists, we continuously refer to people who have been arrested for committing gender-based violence. But that is a reaction that comes after. But the truth of the matter is that gender-based violence takes place in our homes, within our families, and is known within the cycle of friends and families. And as families and as communities, we have the greatest opportunity and potential to resolve the gender-based violence by reporting it to the police. As government, we have changed laws in the sixth administration to ensure that reporting of gender-based violence is not restricted or limited to the victim. Any member of society can report gender-based violence. The people who are killing women, the people who are raping women, the people who are abusing children are our brothers, are our fathers, are our husbands, are our neighbors, and though some children are abused by women, by the way. But the society waits until the situation is worse to report. And actually the society says they want to mind their own business. Unfortunately, gender-based violence is all our business, and we must work together. The police are not in our homes. The police are not in our communities at a day and hour and minute and second moment. The police only comes to react and respond when they've been called. So we call upon the communities, the traditional leaders, community leaders, and every member of every community to partner with government and the community policing forums to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide that is crippling our country. Women and children remain not safe in this country. The police and law enforcement agencies in general continue to arrest where the acts of gender-based violence have been perpetrated. But we have a responsibility as a society to prevent the scourge from even taking place at the first instance. If everybody knows that we are our brother's keeper, but we are most importantly our sister's keepers, if all of us take that responsibility, then we can succeed in the fight against gender-based violence. On the second issue around the spaza shops, and this is an issue that is very close to my heart. When I was Minister of Small Business and Development, we started a drive to make sure that all spaza shops are registered in the country. That would have dealt with the ownership of spaza shops in South Africa. That drive continued, but it was South Africans who took us to court and say you cannot force the registration. There is a court judgment that says even illegal foreign nationals are allowed to operate, whereas the law of the country says to operate a business in South Africa, you must be registered. And for a foreign national to operate a business in South Africa, they must have made an investment of no less than 5 million rands. All of us listening to me now know that it doesn't cost 5 million rands or more than 5 million rands to open a spaza shop. You can open a spaza shop with as little as 1,000 rands. Sometimes people open spaza shops with as little as 400 rands or 350 rands from the SRD grants. So as South Africans, we must take a decision. We are the ones who buy at the spaza shops. If we want to make sure that these spaza shops that are illegal, that are selling products that are not safe for our children, because some of them are fake. But what is worse is that the consumption products, some of them are made at the backyards of those spaza shops. We must take a decision as a society that we are not buying at the spaza shops. We are not buying at the spaza shops where we are not sure where they are buying their products from. We are not buying at the spaza shops where the spaza shops are not registered in their municipalities. The Department of Small Business Development continues to work with municipalities to make sure that spaza shops are registered. To make it easy, and there was one province and one metropolitan council that made it very difficult for South Africans to register spaza shops and make the registration fee very exorbitant. During my tenure and during the COVID-19, we made a directive that enjoins municipalities to register spaza shops and any other informal businesses for free if they could prove their citizenship. So as South Africans, and we go to the spaza shops, we must demand that we want to see your registration certificate. The Department of Small Business and Development continues to work with municipalities to ensure that there are inspections in the spaza shops. It was us, as South Africans, who complained when municipal officials were conducting raids and confiscating and dumping food that were not certified. Some of them were expired, if you recall. So as South Africans, we can't have our cake and eat it. We must decide what's in our best interest. And I'm sure the lives of our children and our own lives are more important than buying cheaper fake products. So we must take a decision as a society that we're not going to buy from these spaza shops. And we know them. I don't have to speak here and then be accused of all sorts of names. We know them, they're in our society. As for calls to get people out of communities, the Department of Home Affairs and other departments continue to work together to make sure that and the Department of Employment and Labor continue to do inspections to make sure that businesses that operate in our townships and villages are registered. We continue to call upon traditional leaders in the areas that are managed by, that fall under traditional leaders to make sure they do not allow businesses to operate without a permit from the traditional leaders. And a payment of 5,000 rands is not enough to sacrifice the life of our community. So we'll continue to work with Contralesa and other traditional bodies and the National House of Traditional Leaders and the COISEN to make sure that businesses that operate in areas that are under the jurisdiction of traditional leaders operate with licenses. And that's why I said those two issues, they are a societal response. Government can react, but government reaction on its own will not be enough. It needs our society to respond. And we are hoping with the intensification of work and the eradication of backlogs of visas at Home Affairs, everybody who's going to be in South Africa will be legally documented, and those that are not documented are in the countries will be deported, as is the requirement of the law. The Department of Home Affairs has submitted a draft immigration bill, which is in Parliament. And we hope Parliament will process that bill that will improve how the immigration rules of South Africa are applied. In terms of the provincial visits led by the President vis-a-vis the district development model, Imbizos, let me start with the district development model. You'll recall that the district development model, when it was conceived and rolled out, the intention is to make sure there's one government, one plan. And we are assigned as ministers and deputy ministers to different districts to make sure that we work with the district municipalities. Provincial governments have equally assigned members of the executive councils to make sure that they work in those municipalities, so that when the planning at the municipal level, all plans are aligned. So that national departments cannot go and roll out a project in a municipality without that municipality being ready. That municipal plans that affect national and provincial departments are not approved, whereas that national and provincial departments have not budgeted for same. That's for full alignment. And to support that work, the President then lays what we call the Presidential Imbizo Program, DDM Imbizo Program, which is a participatory program to make sure that the communities can interact with their national leadership directly. And I want to use the example of myself, who's a village girl and a township girl. There are a number of people I grew up with, and they battle to see me and reach me because I'm a minister and my program is very intense. And to bridge that social gap, the Imbizos then takes us to the communities to make sure that we continue to interact with those communities about their service issues. And we continue to make improvements in that Imbizo initiative, Presidential Imbizo initiative, to make sure that we enhance the interaction. And in that Imbizo, Community members directly speak to the president, get direct responses to the ministers. Currently, if that Imbizo initiative was not underway, the members of the public could only get their questions asked, understand what's happening through a parliamentary question, or when they do the access to information requests, which is very tedious. But the Imbizo program, which we have rolled out across the country, and I think now we're going to be in our third round. It allows that gap. Communities, and if you check the Imbizos, we try to cover a district in an approach so that we can have a far reach in that instances. So that is the one part. So what the president is now leading is an interaction with the executive councils of provinces. Because you'll find, and I want to again use the example of Limpopo, which is the province that I come from. The Premier of Limpopo has started a Dikherekhere project, which is the rural roads grading and upgrading, and without tiring them, just grading and blazing to make sure that the rural or gravel roads are passable. But in that program, there are roads that even if they grade, if they do not have small bridges, it's going to be an issue. But the rural roads grading and maintenance program of provinces does not have provision for small bridges that will cover a river. If you'll recall, the national broadcaster and some of your broadcasters, towards the election, you were calling out government and going to say, yeah, but there's a river stream that is very strong and there's no bridge. Children are crossing in this area, there's no bridge. But the amount that is required to build that bridge is not huge enough for a national project, but it's also big for a provincial budget. Whereas in the Department of Public Works, and supported by the South African National Defence Force, we've got the Welisizwe bridge project, small bridges and harbours project. And if you then integrate the plans of Limpopo with that program, then you get to have a very effective service delivery response. But you may find that when the Premier of Limpopo initiated the Dikherekhere project, the priorities of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure did not include the small bridges or significant number of small bridges in Limpopo. So those conversations and discussions between Cabinet and the Provincial Executive Council of Limpopo will be to say, how do we then align and how do we use, if for instance now, the MTTBS, the medium-term budget policy statement, to readjust so that the Welisizwe small...
All right, live visuals there coming out of Pretoria. That's where Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni has outlined some of the main take-homes from the latest cabinet meeting, but also took time, I suppose, to address some of the other issues that have been dominating headlines, at least in the past week. And that, of course, also includes the deaths of those 5 children in Naledi who we understand may have eaten poisoned food from a local spaza shop. And I have to be very careful because none of this has been unequivocally proven so far. It doesn't mean, of course, that the community there and the affected families aren't shell-shocked by what's happened. Interesting take from the minister, who is essentially throwing it back to society. She says government can react, but that won't go far enough in ensuring that instances like this don't repeat themselves. Apparently, there was a time actually where government made a suggestion that spaza shops be registered businesses, which allow them, I suppose, to operate in a whole lot more of a regulated space. The minister is saying they received pushback at that time, with people, of course, worried about the barriers of entry, including the amount of money you might need to get that business registered and going. And she essentially, in not as many words, but suggested that this is the consequence of not going ahead with that process. It's an unregulated space. It's difficult to track it. And because of that, instances like these do take place. She reckons South Africans need to decide on how to move forward. But she's spoken about a whole host of other stuff, including, of course, the Deputy President's recent visits to the UK to promote South Africa as an investment destination of choice. She's spoken about weather alerts, calling on South Africans to heed those, especially because there's a heat wave warning for the interior parts of the country beginning from tomorrow. And she's also spoken about Media Freedom Day, which is coming up next week, Saturday. So plenty to take from that, and we'll certainly keep watching it for you as that story continues to unfold.